The family photo on the mantelpiece showed a smiling couple, oblivious to the silence that had fallen over their Cincinnati home. It was late October in the Oakley neighborhood, crisp air settling over the neat, tree-lined streets. But inside the residence at 3428 Paxton Avenue, a different kind of chill had set in. Neighbors had noticed the mail collecting on the porch for 3 days. The car, usually gone by 7 a.m., remained in the driveway. Calls went unanswered. Something felt profoundly wrong on a street where the most significant event was usually the annual block party. Police were dispatched for a welfare check on Tuesday, October 26, just after noon. Patrol officers Robert Evans and Maria Rodriguez approached the front door cautiously, the quiet amplifying the crunch of fallen leaves under their boots. No response came from inside. After confirming with dispatch and a concerned relative that the residents should be home, they secured a key from a hidden lockbox, a common convenience now feeling like a grim invitation. The air inside was still, carrying the faint, stale scent of yesterday's coffee. Every object was in its place: a half-read book on the coffee table, dishes neatly stacked by the sink, a jacket draped over a chair. It was the picture of ordinary life, paused abruptly and without explanation. Officer Evans moved methodically through the downstairs, while Officer Rodriguez ascended the stairs. The house felt empty, yet heavy with a presence that wasn't life. Upstairs, the bedrooms were similarly undisturbed, beds made, clothes put away. It wasn't a scene of forced entry or ransacking. It was a scene of sudden, inexplicable stillness. The bathroom door was slightly ajar. Officer Rodriguez pushed it open slowly. The scene inside the master bathroom was a stark, devastating contrast to the domestic calm of the rest of the house. Lying on the floor was the body of a woman, later identified as 38-year-old Sarah Jenkins, the wife from the mantelpiece photo. There were immediate, visible signs of trauma. The small enclosed space felt suffocating, the air thick with the scent of blood and something metallic. Officers immediately secured the scene, backing out to preserve potential evidence. The initial welfare check escalating instantly into a suspected homicide investigation. The quiet street outside was about to be disrupted by the arrival of flashing lights and yellow tape. The residence on Paxton Avenue quickly transformed from a family home into a crime scene. Detectives from the Cincinnati Police Department's homicide unit arrived, their movements precise and somber. The initial assessment noted no signs of forced entry, suggesting the perpetrator likely knew Sarah or had legitimate access to the house. The scene was meticulously documented, photographs taken from every angle, potential evidence cataloged. The lack of immediate disarray was perplexing. It didn't appear to be a robbery gone wrong. The focus shifted immediately to the people closest to Sarah Jenkins. Her husband, David Jenkins, 41, was located and notified. His initial reaction was described by investigators as shock and disbelief. He stated he had been out of town on a business trip since Friday evening, and had been unable to reach Sarah since Saturday. This explanation immediately placed him outside the home during the critical window when Sarah was last known to be alive, but it also made him the primary individual investigators needed to speak with in detail. His alibi would need rigorous verification. Investigators began constructing a timeline. Sarah Jenkins was a librarian at the downtown branch, known for her quiet dedication and kind demeanor. She had not shown up for work on Monday or Tuesday, which was highly unusual for her, prompting colleagues to reach out to her family. Her last known contact was a text message sent to her sister on Sunday afternoon. This placed the time of death likely between Sunday evening and Tuesday morning. The house itself offered limited immediate clues beyond the tragedy it contained. The formal identification of Sarah Jenkins was made by a family member. Among the first people detectives needed to speak with was Sarah's cousin, Emily Carter, 32, who lived in a nearby suburb of Covington, Kentucky. Emily and Sarah were reportedly close, more like sisters than cousins, growing up together in the Cincinnati area. Emily was known to visit Sarah and David frequently, often staying with them when she was in town for work or family gatherings. Her relationship with both Sarah and David would be a crucial area of inquiry for detectives trying to understand the dynamics within the home. The initial hours of the investigation were a race against time, gathering statements, processing the scene, and establishing the complex web of relationships surrounding Sarah Jenkins' life and sudden violent end. The investigation into Sarah Jenkins' death expanded rapidly, reaching out to her family, friends, and colleagues to build a comprehensive profile of her life and identify any potential conflicts. Sarah was consistently described as a warm, gentle person, well-liked by those who knew her. There was no immediate indication of enemies or risky behavior that might explain a violent attack. Her routine was predictable, centered around her work, her home, and her extended family. This made her death in her own home all the more disturbing and inexplicable to those who knew her. Detectives interviewed David Jenkins in detail. He reiterated his account of being out of town, providing dates, times, and locations related to his alleged business trip. He expressed grief and confusion, claiming he could not imagine who would want to harm Sarah. Investigators began the painstaking process of verifying his story, checking hotel records, credit card statements, call logs, and interviewing people he claimed to have met with. An alibi, while potentially clearing him, was also a prime opportunity to uncover deception if one existed. Emily Carter, Sarah's cousin, was also interviewed early in the investigation. She appeared distraught upon hearing the news of Sarah's death. She confirmed her close relationship with Sarah and her frequent visits to the Paxton Avenue home. She offered no information that immediately shed light on who might be responsible, expressing shock and sorrow over her cousin's passing. Detectives noted her demeanor but had no reason at this stage to treat her as anything other than a grieving relative, providing background information. As the investigation continued, subtle inconsistencies began to emerge, not necessarily pointing directly to the killer, but suggesting the picture of Sarah's life presented initially might be incomplete. Friends mentioned Sarah had seemed a little preoccupied in recent months, perhaps stressed about something, though she hadn't confided specific details. Colleagues noticed she occasionally seemed distracted. These were minor observations, easily dismissed as everyday worries, but in the context of a homicide, they took on new potential significance. Was something troubling Sarah? Something she was hiding from those closest to her? Investigators focused on David's movements and communications. His alibi held up to initial checks regarding his physical location during part of the weekend, but digital footprints offered a less clear picture. His phone records showed a pattern of frequent communication with a number that wasn't Sarah's. It belonged to Emily Carter. This alone wasn't suspicious, given their family connection and Emily's closeness to Sarah. However, the volume and timing of the calls and texts raised questions. Some occurred late at night, extending for significant periods. Simultaneously, detectives were examining Sarah's digital life, her phone, computer, and social media. They found no outward signs of marital discord in her public or private messages with David. Their communication appeared affectionate and normal. Yet, the frequency of communication between David and Emily felt disproportionate for a husband and his wife's cousin, even one considered a close friend. The investigation began to shift, moving beyond who might have entered the home, towards the relationships within the victim's inner circle. The quiet suburban tragedy was beginning to reveal layers of hidden complexity, suggesting the possibility that the danger had not come from outside, but from within the fabric of Sarah's own life. The pattern of communication between David Jenkins and Emily Carter became impossible for investigators to ignore. Call logs and text message records spanning several months revealed a relationship far exceeding that of a husband and his wife's cousin. The messages were frequent, often intimate in tone, and sometimes exchanged at odd hours, including times when David was supposedly out of town on business or when Sarah was asleep. This digital trail began to paint a picture of a secret affair unfolding under Sarah Jenkins' roof, or at least behind her back. Further investigation into their communications uncovered messages, planning clandestine meetings. Some texts explicitly discussed their feelings for each other, while others expressed frustration or impatience related to their situation. The discovery of the affair provided a clear, undeniable motive for conflict, placing both David Jenkins and Emily Carter under intensified scrutiny. The serene image of the family on the mantelpiece began to feel like a deliberate performance, masking a fundamental betrayal at the heart of their home. This revelation transformed the investigation. Detectives now viewed David's initial statements about his business trip with suspicion. While he might have been physically away for part of the weekend, his extensive communication with Emily raised questions about his truthfulness regarding the nature of his time away, and his possible involvement or knowledge of events surrounding Sarah's death. Similarly, Emily's initial portrayal of herself as merely a grieving cousin now seemed potentially misleading. Her deep involvement in a secret relationship with David directly implicated her in the hidden tensions that likely existed within the Jenkins household, whether Sarah was aware of them or not. The focus of the investigation sharpened on the events immediately preceding Sarah's death, Was the affair reaching a crisis point? Were David and Emily planning a future together? Had Sarah discovered the truth? These questions guided the search for further evidence, both physical and digital. The house on Paxton Avenue was re-examined with this new context in mind, searching for anything that might indicate a confrontation or a struggle related to the affair. Investigators began interviewing people who knew both David and Emily, asking about their interactions and any signs of an unusual closeness or tension. While some friends and family members recalled Emily being a frequent visitor, none had suspected a romantic involvement with David. This suggested the affair had been carefully concealed, adding another layer of deception to the already tragic situation. The quiet desperation and secrecy inherent in their relationship now cast a shadow over everything. The confirmed existence of the affair provided a powerful motive, but it did not definitively explain the violence that took Sarah's life. Investigators needed to understand how the affair intersected with the timeline of her death. Had there been an argument, a discovery, or was the affair part of a larger, more sinister plan? The digital evidence had opened the door to the truth about David and Emily's relationship, but the path to understanding Sarah's final moments remained obscure. The secrets hidden within texts and call logs hinted at the catalyst, but the specific act, the violence itself, was still a mystery waiting to be fully revealed. The digital footprint of David Jenkins and Emily Carter led investigators to a crucial discovery. Among Emily Carter's personal effects, specifically on a password-protected cloud storage account linked to her phone, detectives located a series of video files. These files had been uploaded automatically, a feature Emily had apparently enabled. The timestamps on these videos corresponded directly to the critical period surrounding Sarah Jenkins' disappearance and death. This was the key piece of evidence the investigation had been searching for, a silent witness to events no one else saw. The first video file accessed was dated late Sunday evening. It appeared to be filmed covertly, the camera unsteady, pointed towards a doorway within the Paxton Avenue home. Muffled voices could be heard, seeming to argue. The video quality was poor, but the setting was clearly inside Sarah and David's house. Subsequent video files were found, each a short clip spanning several hours into the early morning. They captured fragments of conversations, movements within the house, and sounds that sent a chill through the investigative team. One particular video, time-stamped early Monday morning, provided a horrifying, partial glimpse of the fatal confrontation. The camera, seemingly placed on a shelf or piece of furniture, recorded a view of the master bathroom doorway. Voices were raised in a heated argument. Sarah's voice, distressed and angry, was clearly audible, confronting David about the affair. David's voice was defensive, then accusatory. Emily's voice was also present, lower but distinct, attempting to interject or defend herself. The video did not show the exact moment of the attack, but it captured the sounds of a struggle. Sarah crying out, and then a terrible, abrupt silence. The discovery of the video evidence was a watershed moment. It confirmed not only the existence of the affair, but also that a violent confrontation, directly linked to the infidelity, had occurred inside the home at the approximate time of Sarah's death. Furthermore, the fact that Emily Carter was filming, even covertly, during such a highly charged domestic dispute was deeply unsettling. It suggested a premeditation to document the events for reasons that were immediately unclear, but undeniably significant. This evidence fundamentally changed the trajectory of the case. David Jenkins' alibi, while placing him away for part of the weekend, could not account for his presence during the filmed confrontation. Emily Carter's presence in the house and her active recording of the argument implicated her directly in the events leading to Sarah's death. The video evidence was not merely corroborative, it was foundational, providing a timeline and a terrifying glimpse into the final moments of Sarah Jenkins' life, forcing investigators to confront the brutal reality of what had happened behind the seemingly closed doors of the quiet home on Paxton Avenue. The passive documentation by the cousin added a chilling layer of calculation to the unfolding tragedy. With the video evidence secured, investigators meticulously analyzed its contents, frame by frame, sound by sound. Digital forensic analysts worked to enhance the audio and stabilize the shaky footage where possible. The full duration of the recorded clips provided a chilling narrative arc. Initial argument escalating, sounds of physical struggle, and then the silence. Though the visual component was limited, the audio captured the emotional intensity and the violent conclusion of the confrontation. Sarah Jenkins' final cries were a harrowing testament to the brutality of the attack. The medical examiner's report became critically important in corroborating the video's implications. The autopsy confirmed Sarah Jenkins died as a result of blunt force trauma. The nature and location of her injuries were consistent with a violent physical assault. The estimated time of death provided by the medical examiner aligned closely with the timestamp on the critical video segments, solidifying the link between the recorded confrontation and Sarah's death. The forensic findings and the digital evidence converged, painting a clear, grim picture of the event. Investigators compared the sounds on the video to the layout of the house and the scene in the master bathroom. The struggle seemed to have originated near the bathroom or just outside it. The sounds suggested objects being struck or falling, coinciding with the type of blunt force trauma Sarah sustained. There were also sounds that could be interpreted as someone attempting to restrain or silence Sarah. The video, despite its imperfections, provided a crucial, unfiltered record of the crime unfolding. The presence of David Jenkins and Emily Carter in the house during the recorded confrontation, confirmed by their voices on the audio, placed them both at the scene of the homicide. Their initial statements to police were now directly contradicted by the objective evidence of the video. David had claimed to be out of town. Emily had claimed to be a grieving cousin, with no direct knowledge of the events. The video proved both were present and actively involved in the situation immediately preceding Sarah's death. Other forensic evidence collected at the scene, such as fingerprints, DNA profiles, and trace evidence, were cross-referenced with David and Emily. Evidence consistent with a struggle was found in the bathroom. While this evidence could place them at the scene, the video detailed their actions and the sequence of events in a way physical evidence alone could not. The video served as the narrative backbone, providing the context and the brutal confirmation of what happened in Sarah Jenkins' home that night. The question remained: who delivered the fatal blow? The video didn't show this explicitly. It captured the sounds and the escalating violence, but the final act was off-screen. Was it David, enraged by being discovered? Was it Emily, feeling cornered or protective of David? Or was it a joint act, a desperate violent reaction from two people whose secret had been exposed? The evidence pointed clearly to their presence and involvement, but the precise role of each individual in the actual homicide required further investigation and interrogation. The chilling reality of the video left no doubt about their presence, but it still held back the ultimate truth of who was responsible for Sarah's death. Armed with the video evidence and the forensic findings, detectives brought David Jenkins and Emily Carter in for further questioning. Their initial calm demeanor was gone, replaced by visible tension and evasiveness. Presented with the irrefutable proof of their presence in the house during the confrontation, their carefully constructed stories crumbled. David could no longer claim to be out of town. Emily could no longer claim ignorance of the event. The interrogations were lengthy and intense. Investigators used the video clips, playing excerpts of the audio to prompt responses and highlight inconsistencies. David, initially defensive, eventually admitted he had returned to the house on Sunday evening, not Monday morning as he had previously claimed, because he and Emily had planned to meet there. He admitted that Sarah had discovered their plan, or perhaps the affair itself, leading to the argument. He claimed the argument escalated rapidly. When pressed about the violence, his account became muddled and self-serving, attempting to minimize his role or shift blame. Emily's interview followed a similar trajectory. She admitted she was present in the house with David. She confessed to the affair, describing it as a complex emotional relationship. When asked about the videos, she initially offered weak explanations, suggesting she had been trying to document Sarah's aggressive behavior during arguments, a claim that seemed inconsistent with the content and Sarah's distressed cries on the recordings. As the pressure mounted, her story shifted. She acknowledged the argument turned physical but provided a narrative that placed the primary physical aggression on either Sarah or David. She, too, attempted to deflect responsibility. Neither David nor Emily immediately confessed to striking the fatal blow. Their accounts, while now placing them at the scene and confirming the affair as the catalyst, diverged when it came to the specifics of the violence. David suggested Sarah had attacked him or Emily, and the situation got out of control. Emily's narrative hinted at David being the aggressor, perhaps in response to Sarah's fury or an attempt to silence her. The video captured the sounds of a struggle involving multiple people, making it difficult to definitively assign sole responsibility for the fatal injury from the recording alone. The motive was now starkly clear: a secret affair exposed, leading to a violent confrontation. The video provided the irrefutable context and timeline, The forensic evidence confirmed the method and timing of death. The conflicting accounts from David and Emily highlighted their complicity and their attempts to evade responsibility. Investigators had the who, David and Emily, the why, the affair, the when, Sunday night, Monday morning, and the how, blunt force trauma during a confrontation captured on video. The remaining piece was proving which individual or if both were directly responsible for causing Sarah's death. The interrogations brought them closer to the truth, but the complete, unvarnished account of Sarah Jenkins' final moments remained fragmented between two self-preserving narratives. Following the conclusion of the investigation and the analysis of all available evidence, concluding the damning video footage and the conflicting statements from David Jenkins and Emily Carter, the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office made a decision based on the evidence that placed both individuals at the scene of a violent confrontation directly preceding Sarah Jenkins' death, and with clear motive established by the affair. Both David Jenkins and Emily Carter were arrested. David Jenkins was charged with murder. Emily Carter was charged with complicity to murder and tampering with evidence related to the recording of the event and initial attempts to conceal the truth. These charges reflected the prosecution's belief that while David may have delivered the fatal blow, Emily was an active participant in the events leading up to and during the homicide, and her recording of the events was part of a knowing involvement. The arrest sent shockwaves through the quiet suburban community and among the friends and family who had known the couple and the cousin. The hidden reality of the affair and the violent end to Sarah's life contrasted sharply with the public image they had maintained. Court proceedings began with arraignments. Both David and Emily entered pleas of not guilty. Bail was set at a high amount, reflecting the seriousness of the charges and the perceived flight risk, particularly given the digital evidence. Pre-trial motions included arguments about the admissibility of the video evidence. The defense teams for both David and Emily argued that the video was incomplete, shaky, and did not definitively show who inflicted the fatal injury. They also raised questions about how and why Emily had been filming, attempting to cast her actions in a different light or question the video's context. However, the prosecution argued successfully that the video was crucial evidence, directly relevant to the confrontation and placing the defendants at the scene. The judge ruled the video evidence admissible, a major victory for the prosecution. The legal strategies of David and Emily's defense teams began to diverge, reflecting their individual charges and attempts to shift blame. David's defense focused on arguing that while he was present, the situation was chaotic, potentially involving self-defense or an accidental death during a struggle initiated by Sarah or even Emily. Emily's defense focused on minimizing her role, portraying herself as a witness or a passive participant in a situation driven by David and Sarah's conflict, while attempting to explain the filming as a misguided attempt to protect herself or document events, not as part of a criminal act. The stage was set for a complex legal battle, where two defendants, once united by a secret affair, would likely turn against each other to avoid conviction for Sarah Jenkins' murder. The formal charges laid bare the hidden violence that had destroyed a family. The trial of David Jenkins and Emily Carter was held in the Hamilton County Courthouse. It was a trial that drew significant attention, revealing the intimate and brutal details of the hidden affair and its devastating consequences. The prosecution's case centered heavily on the digital evidence, the extensive communications between David and Emily proving the affair, and crucially, the video footage captured by Emily in the Paxton Avenue home. The courtroom was filled with tension as the prosecutor presented the timeline of the affair, using texts and emails that documented the growing intimacy between David and Emily, and their increasingly desperate desire to be together. This established the clear motive. Sarah was an obstacle. Witnesses testified to Sarah's character, painting a picture of a woman oblivious to the betrayal unfolding around her, or perhaps only recently becoming aware of it. The most impactful moment came with the presentation of the video evidence. The courtroom fell silent as the audio clips were played, capturing the sounds of the escalating argument, Sarah's voice filled with anguish and rage, and the sounds of the ensuing struggle. While the visual component was limited, the audio alone was a powerful, visceral account of the final moments. A digital forensic expert testified about the authenticity of the videos, their timestamps, and how they were retrieved from Emily Carter's cloud storage. The medical examiner testified, detailing Sarah Jenkins' injuries and confirming the cause and time of death, aligning it precisely with the confrontation captured in the video. Physical evidence from the scene, such as signs of a struggle in the bathroom and trace evidence, was presented to corroborate the events depicted in the recording. David Jenkins took the stand in his own defense. He admitted the affair and his presence in the house. However, his testimony was evasive regarding the fatal blow. He claimed the argument with Sarah became physical, and in the chaos, Sarah was injured. He tried to portray the event as an accidental death during a mutual struggle, minimizing his intent and action. He pointed towards Emily's presence and actions, suggesting she was more involved in the physical altercation than she claimed. Emily Carter also testified. She admitted to the affair and to filming the events. She claimed she started filming because Sarah was becoming aggressive, and she felt threatened. A claim that was met with skepticism given the context of the argument being about the affair. She recounted the struggle, describing David as the primary aggressor trying to restrain Sarah, and in the process inflicting the fatal injury. Her testimony painted David as the one solely responsible for the physical violence that caused Sarah's death, while portraying herself as a passive observer or reluctant participant caught in the middle. The cross-examination of both David and Emily was intense, highlighting the inconsistencies in their stories and their attempts to shift blame onto each other. The prosecution argued that the video, combined with the forensic evidence, proved a confrontation initiated or escalated by David and Emily, resulting in Sarah's death, and that Emily's act of filming demonstrated a chilling detachment or even a desire to document the outcome. The defense countered by emphasizing the video's incompleteness and ambiguity regarding the specific act of killing. The truth lay somewhere in the violent interaction captured partially on video, leaving the jury to weigh the evidence and the conflicting testimony. After weeks of testimony, presentation of evidence, and closing arguments that highlighted the tragic collision of infidelity and violence, the case against David Jenkins and Emily Carter went to the jury. The deliberation was lengthy, reflecting the complexity of assigning specific roles and intent in the chaotic final moments captured on video. The jury had to consider whether David's actions constituted murder, whether Emily was complicit, and how their individual roles contributed to Sarah Jenkins' death. Ultimately, the jury reached a verdict. David Jenkins was found guilty of murder. The evidence, particularly his presence in the house during the fatal confrontation, his motive stemming from the affair, and his inconsistent testimony, convinced the jury of his direct responsibility for Sarah's death. Emily Carter was found guilty of complicity to murder and tampering with evidence. The jury found that her role extended beyond passive observation. Her presence, her involvement in the affair that triggered the confrontation, and her act of filming during the event constituted active participation and an attempt to conceal the truth. Sentencing followed later. David Jenkins received a sentence of 15 years to life for the murder of his wife, Sarah Jenkins. Emily Carter received a sentence of 10 years for her complicity in the murder and tampering charges. The judge's sentencing remarks emphasized the devastating impact of their selfish choices and the callousness demonstrated by their actions, particularly the act of filming. The conclusion of the trial brought a formal end to the legal process, but it could not erase the damage inflicted. The family of Sarah Jenkins was left grappling with the unimaginable grief of losing their daughter, sister, and cousin, not to a random act of violence, but to a calculated betrayal by those closest to her. The details revealed during the trial, particularly the existence of the affair and the chilling video, added layers of pain and trauma to their loss. The quiet house on Paxton Avenue, once a home filled with ordinary life, stood as a silent, grim monument to the hidden secrets it contained. The community, shaken by the reality of what had occurred behind closed doors, was left to reconcile the public faces of individuals with the capacity for such violence. The legacy of the case was a stark reminder of how quickly seemingly normal lives can unravel when trust is broken and dark secrets are kept. The pursuit of a forbidden relationship had led directly to violence, death, and the shattering of multiple lives, leaving behind only ruin and the haunting echo of a struggle captured on video.